total of 591 million Indians play games on their phones. That's one in almost three of us. Last week, the government took a sledgehammer to one part of that world, that's real money gaming, while also promising to promote another part, that's esports and casual gaming.
Honorable Speaker Sir, I rise to move that the promotion and regulation of online gaming bill 2025 be taken into consideration.
The Promotion and Regulation of Online Gaming Bill 2025. This law entails a double move that could reshape a 30,000 crore rupees industry. Here's IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav in a recent television interview.
Promotion is for the things which are good for the society. E-sports, which is emerging as a major competitive sports category. Online social games, which are part of our life. All of us play Sudoku, chess, so many things that we play. 2/3 is very good. 1/3, the online money games, that is having a significantly serious impact on the society. People are losing money, families are breaking, so many people are committing suicide, and the way it is spreading, close to 45 crore people are affected by it by now. More than 20,000 crore rupees have been lost in the online money games.
Well, there's also the angle of massive financial irregularities. Platforms tied to fraud and money laundering, plus the rise of offshore operators routing traffic and cash flows beyond Indian jurisdiction and taxes. So, the government's view is that this is no longer a state-by-state nuisance, it's a national public health and security problem that needs central intervention.
The bill was passed in record time, with the Lok Sabha approving it in 7 minutes and the Rajya Sabha in just 26 minutes.
The online gaming bill has got the president's assent and now has become a law in fact.
So, what does the law do?
The law bans all money gaming platforms, imposing penalties of up to 3 years imprisonment and fines of up to 1 crore rupees for facilitators.
Well, it also empowers the centre to block access to money gaming services, and it authorizes investigators to enter physical or digital spaces and arrest without warrant. At the same time, like I said, it promotes a build-up of esports and social/educational games with policy support and clearer categorization. The aim, according to the government, is a secure, structured, innovation-friendly gaming economy minus the gambling. But not everyone is happy.
A majority of the industry have called it as a big setback to key economic driver of the sporting industry.
So, in today's episode, we ask, does a prohibition plus promotion strategy actually reduce harm? Or will it just drive betting underground and into offshore locations? Are debates like skill versus chance over? Also, have the courts decided whose jurisdiction is it anyway, centre or state? The impact on the industry is palpable. For instance, Dream11, one of the biggest names in RMG, that's real money gaming, has reportedly pulled out as sponsor for the Indian cricket team. Also, Probo, a major opinion trading or prediction markets platform, has stopped all money gaming operations. Others are making similar pivots. But what will be the impact on their brand ambassadors? A list that includes A-lister actors from the South and former cricketers. Listen on as we try and answer all these questions. It's Tuesday, the 26th of August. I'm Anirban Chaudhary. This is the Morning Brief. My first guest today is Vidushpat Singhania, managing partner at Krida Legal. He started the conversation by saying that the ambit of the law may be even wider than we think.
So I think something which I don't think anybody has talked about till now, one of the facts is that how this will affect the product and services sale. If you go on certain food apps, you will see that yes, if you order food, you will suddenly be taken to some spin the wheel or some other kind of a scratch card. Similarly, if you go on certain fintech apps, again, something similar, you will be shown a slot machine or you will be shown a scratch card. Now, if you actually look at the definition of online game and online money game, I'll just read it out. Means any game which is played on an electronic or a digital device and is managed and operated as a software through internet or any kind of technology facilitating electronic communication. An online money game then continues to say such online game, irrespective of whether such game is based on skill, chance, or both, played by a user by paying fees, and in both in product and services, you have an expectation of winning, which entails either monetary or any other enrichment in return for that money or other stakes. So now this really covers that as well.
So you're saying everything that's gamified could be misconstrued
Yes.
as RMG.
Misconstrued as this, because if you read this strictly, does it not cover it?
Okay.
And if you see certain old Supreme Court judgments, something which had happened when some kind of a quiz was launched in IPL or something way back, I think about 2008 or 9. At
Mhm.
that point, the Supreme Court has said that if you have even taken even half a rupee or whatever you've taken, and that has gone towards running that game, then it will be treated as a input into that game. And in this case, it would be treated as a stake.
Right. Okay, let's go to the legalities of it. I mean, the first thing that a lot of people said was that, betting/gambling is actually a state subject. So then what specific constitutional entries enable the union or the center to legislate this?
Sure. So the different powers of the union government, state government are provided in the Schedule 7 of the Constitution of India, right? And that is where the entries are there. Now, you're correct that betting and gambling is a state subject. But what is the central subject is couple of these things. First is entry 31, that posts and telegraph, telephones, wireless, broadcasting, and any other like forms of communication. And that would mean online as well. This is where the central government can legislate on anything that is online.
Mhm.
Second, they have said that because it is across states and maybe sometimes across countries, so they have powers under entry 42 of the union list as well, which says interstate trade and commerce. Third, they've talked about the issue of foreign jurisdiction and this aspect being also applicable to people who are sitting abroad and violating. So that is
Mhm.
entry 16 in
Mhm.
union list, foreign jurisdiction. Fourth will be that if somebody who's violated the law is sitting internationally, will have to be extradited. And fifth, saying that if something is not specifically enumerated in list 2 or list 3, then they can cover it within this. Having said that, in my understanding, betting and gambling has always been state regulated, be it horse racing and licensing of horse racing, which is a clear case of betting, that has always been state licensed. Then you have casinos, which are there in Goa and Sikkim, always been licensed and for years at end. Then you have online gaming in Sikkim, again has been licensed for years. Nagaland, online gaming has again been licensed for years. And then even to some extent, lotteries and online lotteries have also been tendered by state governments and have been licensed over years in Meghalaya, in Goa, in Arunachal Pradesh. So we are in a big constitutional question, that is where the doctrine of pith in substance, where does the core of this entry lie? Does it lie within the aspect of betting and gambling, entertainment, and public health, which are state subjects, or does it lie within the sphere of online and entry 97, which is the residuary entry? So I think this is the constitutional debate which we are going to see in the courts, being argued by multiple lawyers.
Now, there is a bit of a legal wrangle here. In June this year, a division bench at the Madras High Court upheld Tamil Nadu's Online Gaming Authority Regulations 2025 issued under the 2022 TN Act. The court approved the following: mandatory 2-step Aadhaar KYC, a ban on gameplay from midnight to 5 a.m., and age/monetary limits, as well as ad controls for RMG. Tamil Nadu has also appealed to the Supreme Court to uphold its 2022 Act, including the schedule banning online rummy and poker. Elsewhere, in June 2022, the Karnataka High Court struck down provisions of the Karnataka Police Amendment Act 2021 that had banned online games of skill for stakes. It said that an absolute prohibition and state overreach was unconstitutional. Karnataka has also appealed in the Supreme Court. The state recently argued that the online format cannot shield games from regulation. So, the Supreme Court is effectively the arbiter on state competence versus union and the skill versus chance treatment when played for stakes online. Until India's apex court settles this, the divergence among state continues. Here's Vidush.
So this actually is reserved, and the Supreme Court has to pass an order to this effect. And that will obviously have a peripheral. If he decides that yes, the online gaming falls within the ambit of betting and gambling, and he decides on that, then obviously this act will get challenged on that basis. That if the Supreme Court has already decided on it, then how can you enact a law on this basis?
Vidush, tell me a little bit about the skill versus chance debate, and also, where does it stand now?
So now what all the gaming companies have argued in Tamil Nadu, in Karnataka, in Supreme Court and various other courts is game of skill is something which is protected like a trade or a profession, and the government can only impose reasonable restrictions on it under Article 19. Now, what is the reasonable restriction is what is going to be challenged. Is prohibition a reasonable restriction or not? Most likely what I feel the gaming companies are going to do is as soon as the provisions of this act are notified, they're going to go to the same high courts first, be it the Madras High Court or the Karnataka High Court or any other high court, which has held the game of skills are protected under Article 19 and only reasonable restrictions can be done, and prohibition is not a reasonable restriction. Once the courts have already issued an order, they're going to likely first go and challenge it there. I'm sure the appeals will then eventually come to the Supreme Court. No doubt on that.
Got it. Okay. Let's pick some other strands. The first being the international ambit of this law. Now, what enforcement tools are realistically effective when it comes to that? The biggest fear is that it will be just pushed to the black market instead of being actually prohibited, and it will be pushed to overseas markets, just like what happened to crypto. What do you say to that?
So I think this law is going further. And this is, I think, a challenge that was being faced by the government across things. Is that so many people were sponsoring, so many people were endorsing, and then transaction was being facilitated. Now, all those people were from India, right? Now, by making even fintechs liable, by banks liable, by even person who are endorsing it liable, or people who are taking sponsorship from these people liable, there'll be strong risk portfolio that each of these people will have to look at. Now, nobody wants to go to jail. I think what was happening is that they were working in a policy flux, but that policy flux has been closed now. So I don't think these guys will be the foreign people, even if they sit in foreign jurisdiction, they will be able to reach people in India to the extent that they were being able to reach just before this act came into picture. Having said that, I agree with you that there will be certain dubious players who may be sitting abroad who will operate in the grey market, but then the law will have to take its own course. So the law can be made, enforcement will have to be done. And I think with teeth being given under this act, the enforcement will be stricter.
Got it. Tell me what you think of this warrantless search and arrest powers that the laws give the regulator.
So I think, yes, sir, that is, I think, something which is of concern, and I think which even criminal lawyers will talk about. While it says that any person may arrest, but they have to still bring the person before the magistrate, right? That is clearly written down in 16(2). So this is also there in our criminal law, that if particular person has to be arrested, then he has to be produced before the magistrate within 24 hours. So I think this law to that extent is adopting that. But it is a concern that, arrest can be taken place under this act without even a warrant. And I'm sure this will also be one of the parts of the constitutional challenge, that how a citizen's right and to what extent it can be curbed by such a law.
Understood. Tell me something. There was a talk of now there will be a centrally regulated body, etc. But when this was first discussed, there were talks of a self-regulated industry body which would be under government purview, which a lot of people thought, would be healthy, but a lot of people also thought would be very prone to corruption. Is that what's sort of led to the complete deletion of that possibility from the bill, you think?
So I think what you're talking about is the IT rules of 2023 that were promulgated, I think in April 2023, from what I remember. Now, I think the Honorable Minister Ashwini Vaishnavji, I think when he was making a submission in the Parliament, he made this statement that we gave the industry a chance to self-regulate. We were willing to recognize self-regulatory bodies, but the industry kept fighting amongst themselves, and they could not come out with a non-conflicting SROs, and they could not come out with standards which were acceptable to everybody because of the infighting, and therefore we have taken this step. So I agree with you on the fact that, while the government has taken a very strong step, to some extent the industries also have to blame. But as I said, prohibition is not a solution. The government could have had a further discussion on this rather than doing this on an urgent basis. They could have had a further discussion and said, if you do not do this, we are going to prohibit. And then given the industry some, say, a deadline, they come out with a regulation within 15 days or 30 days. Otherwise, this is a step. And I'm sure the industry would have come out with something at that point of time.
Now, let's come to a basic critique. Many people are saying that the money gaming industry should have been regulated and not prohibited. Tell me, how do other countries deal with this?
Worldwide, countries have regulated it, be it a country similar to us like Brazil, or be it developed countries like a USA or a UK.
Exactly.
Or a France or Australia. And they have very, very robust regulations. And the regulations are not like once you made a regulation, that's it. They've set up a gambling commission which then revises regulation every year or every 2 years, including standards for advertisements, including standards for KYC, including limits to play. Everything is revised every year or 2 years.
This is true of all the markets that you mentioned, all the economies or all the governments?
Yes, almost all. They are all very dynamic. They make the law, but they keep revising. They give the powers to the gambling commissions, and then they keep revising it on a regular basis, looking into the society, looking at in discussions with the operators, even looking at what the customer and the user complaints are, and the complaints coming from the government. So they keep looking at all those and keep revising it. So that's a full-time body just doing this job.
Also, the other thing is that if addiction and overspending are concerns, there is also real danger in these in-app purchases that are related to esports. There are loot boxes, etc. And I think because you gave the examples of other governments, I think countries like Belgium and Netherlands have classified these loot boxes as gambling objects. Here, they are uninsulated. So isn't that sort of counterproductive anyway?
I think they've said the loot boxes should be allowed. And I think what you bring about is that the authority will probably have to look at on a case-to-case basis. I think it would be a similar approach to, say, a USA, which does it like nobody's saying loot boxes are prohibited, but it will have to be looked at that you can't use loot boxes for really online real money gaming. USA says it has to be determined on a case-to-case basis. UK says first is self-regulation, and if it is not successful, then the gambling commission. And France is also like on the similar lines that, items which have no real world money value can be put in loot boxes, but something which has real money value cannot be put in loot boxes. Even some other jurisdictions also, if you say even a South Korea or somebody, they all talk about that you have to give some indication of what is there in the loot box. So there is a variety of stipulations around how loot boxes are regulated worldwide as well. And I think this authority that has been created under this act will definitely look at it in the sense that if somebody starts using loot boxes almost like a gambling tool, then the authorities will crack down on them.
Got it. Okay, tell me, do you see, and this is from my producer Vinay, who's also on this call, and he is a gamer himself. And obviously the worry with all of them would be whether platforms like YouTube, Discord, and other streaming sites will now be, proactively changing their policy themselves after this law. And of course, the largest fear is, will skill games, actual innocuous skill games, will they also be regulated or maybe even prohibited in the future? Is that fear legit?
So skill games, when they are played as a multi-sport event or competition, right, between individuals, then I don't think that is prohibited. Now, those games like a Dota or a FIFA, those similar games, right, they will be allowed because that is what the minister himself and the law itself says that has to be allowed.
In fact, encouraged.
Encourage, correct. That's correct.
Mm.
Because we want to participate. But in fact, there will be a e-sport organization which will be recognized and they will be promoting and in fact paying the players and looking at India's participation at the World Cups and the Asian and Olympics, hopefully. So there,
Right.
that's actually a part of encouragement. In fact, these events will be probably supported by government going forward. Of course, if somebody is putting skill gaming as a rummy, as per this law, that is banned. So then that is a concern. What I think is something which may be also a concern to somebody like Vinay is which kind of games will be allowed, because this authority will now start cracking down on even it's almost like a certification authority, just like a censor board in the films or the entertainment space. So they will also have some kind of powers on what games will be allowed and what games will not be allowed. And those games could be against national interest, too much violence, against morality. So probably that will also start kicking in with this authority, is what I assume. That they will start looking at games on that line as well.
Final question, Vidush. What do you think is going to happen in the next 2-3 months, both on the industry side and also the court side, given that some judgments are pending?
Okay, so let's start with the industry side. Now,
Yeah.
if you see the news that is coming in, say, from the major players, they're all pivoting to other businesses. They're going to continue keeping free gaming on. So a fantasy sports will continue in its free avatar. Similarly, maybe a rummy poker will also continue in its free avatar. But all these portals are also going to be pivoting to other businesses. From what I hear, somebody is going to be in stockbroking, somebody's going to wealth management, because they have that expertise of payment gateways and advisory and everything on that line. I've also heard that some operators are saying that we are not going to cater to Indian market anymore. Now, some of our Indian operators are already operating in Africa, in Brazil, in the South Asian countries. So I think a lot of them will start focusing in those territories rather than India. As well as from the court side, as I said, that most likely all these matters, I think the gaming companies will first want to go to the high courts, especially one of those high courts which have given an order in their favor. What I got to know yesterday is somebody actually filed an appeal under Article 32 in the Supreme Court itself, questioning this act.
So the Article 32 is when your fundamental right is violated.
Is the Supreme Court's power to review any aspect or any legislation and to decide whether that is constitutional or not. So maybe the Supreme Court is also apprised of this matter. Now, whether they take it under 32 or they direct it back to a high court will also have to be looked at. So I think this is what is going to happen in the next 2-3 months.
Understood. Vidush, thank you so much for joining us on the morning brief.
Thank you so much for having me. And it was a pleasure having this conversation with you.
Okay, now let's come to the hit on the creator economy. My next guest is Rohit Agarwal.
I'm the founder and director of an organization called as Alpha Seekers Marketing. My background, I have been in the esports and gaming segment for the past 10 years. I have been a very active member of this battle that has been there in terms of distinguishing RMG from esports and from online games.
For someone who runs an influencer marketing company, Rohit is surprisingly objective about the development.
So, Anirbal, I'm just going to dial back a little bit over here. If you think over what happened in 2021, there was a huge influx in terms of crypto brands. Eventually, it died an immediate death simply because there were not enough compliances in place. But a year later, in 2022, 2023, you saw a very similar pattern happen with fantasy apps. Now, with the RMG segment, I feel something very similar is happening. And now that the compliances have come into picture, I just feel that short term, it's going to shake things up. But in the long term, it's genuinely a very, very good thing to happen. So you just have to stay compliant and stay, sort of dedicated to what you're doing.
Give me a sense of the economics of this space. How big is it when it, of course, comes to content creators, influencers? How much are companies, give me a sense of what RMG companies are willing to pay and how it compares with other esports.
Sure. So I'll tell you this. There is a very big overlap in terms of esports influencer audience and RMG influencer audience. I'll tell you why there's an overlap. So for esports influencers, their main KPI by any game publisher is to get app installs and to get FTTs, which is first time transactions. With RMG brands, it's the same thing. So, because of that, we used to receive a lot of inquiries from Indian and international RMG brands. They used to give such irresistible offers. Trust me, I have been offered close to around 2 crores to run a campaign for a certain RMG brand. And if I ask them in exchange that, okay, what is your expectation in terms of deliverables? They'll be like, nothing, just, make your creators wear our merchandise, make them play cricket with our bat and ball. Like on an average per creator, like let's say if I talk about a mid-sized creator, which is in the range of 100K to 500K Instagram followers, they would be willing to pay 2 lakhs to 3 lakhs per deliverable. Whereas for the macro category, like a million plus subscribers or a million plus followers on Instagram, they would easily pay 15 to 20 lakhs eyes closed. And it was unbelievable.
And obviously,
FMCG brand.
this money is coming from RMG companies, and esports would be much lesser, right?
Esports would be much lesser. So again, it's all upon the ticket size over here, right? Like the transaction sizes are much smaller. It's in the range of 29 rupees, 40 rupees, 100 rupees, or so on. And there is no incentive for an end user. Whereas with RMG brands, there was this sort of a false sense of promise that even if you put, let's say, 20 rupees, there is a potential for you to earn 1 crore rupees in return. So the scale of things were very, very different from esports brands.
Got it. Tell me, what kind of influencers do they want to get? I mean, we've heard of actors and cricketers. And more importantly, how aware or ignorant are these people, I mean, the supposed brand ambassadors, about the pitfalls of representing an RMG company?
I will just summarize this in one word, which is vulnerability. I have had RMG brands reach out to me saying that give me creators that are either vulnerable themselves or have a vulnerable audience. Now, what type of creators are vulnerable? These would be your tier 2, tier 3 influencers coming from places like Kanpur or Indore, where it is a little difficult for an agency like me to bring retainer brands for them from a non-RMG space. So they would see this as a golden egg, as a golden opportunity to earn 1 to 2 lakh rupees per month. And I'm being very honest here, about 70 to 80% of these vulnerable creators would end up falling into the trap because they'll be like, jo hona hai wo dekha jayega. The vulnerability that I have seen is essentially trying to match up to a certain lifestyle. Now, what happens is, if you notice a certain pattern, these will be the kind of celebrities that are probably struggling to make their ends meet in terms of the lifestyle they currently have. There are certain celebrities that are doing very well in their careers, but they still indulge in RMG promotions because there are others in the same segment doing it. So they feel like, what will even happen to me? Either all of us will fall in trouble or none of us will fall in trouble. So recently in the southern part of India, a lot of celebrities have come under the scanner for promoting RMG brands. And these are all your top level celebrities that generate like 200, 300 crore box office hits. They are the ones that are being highlighted.
So what are they saying now? What will happen to them now? And I'm not asking you to take names, but maybe numbers. What would be a typical income drop for people who depended on, money gaming?
So your mid-tier, tier 2, tier 3 creators are the most affected, about a 70%. Then you have your macro creators, which are, all your reality show stars, which are about, say, like a 30%, 40% down in this. And celebrities, which would be, just like a 15, 20% hit, not more than that.
Finally, Rohit, what playbook are you giving creators? What are the pitfalls they should be wary about? What should they be aware of when they sign new contracts or go for representing companies?
Right. So, one very psychological thing that I keep telling all creators is whatever you do, whatever actions you take, you are responsible for the behavior of your audience. do not misguide them. And there will be golden spoons that will come along the way, but just know, what could affect the behavior of your audience. And the second thing we tell them from a brand perspective and a more rational perspective is that remember that creators and brands both appreciate creators, appreciate people that are more exclusive rather than more open to all. Brands say that if this creator is working with an RMG segment, means he's really desperate for money at the moment, right? And they will not even put you on the table when they are, drafting their creator plan. Now with RMG, all I'm hoping right now is that, our country is built on the idea of finding loopholes or finding jugaad in everything. So, while the government of India has gotten this bill with a very strong and positive intent, I'm really hoping that those loopholes are not going to again bring us back to square one.
Right. Thank you, Rohit.
Thank you so much, Anirban, and have a great day.
So, India has just executed one of the toughest moves against online wagering by a major democracy. Here's what to watch out for. The Central Authority's rulebook and any fine print that does away with the confusion that Vidush spoke about. For example, can food ordering apps that gamify indeed be liable? The other thing to look out for will be how platforms, even the big ones, tweak their policies to safeguard themselves from real money gaming. And thirdly, really important, will be the Supreme Court decisions. We will keep tracking all of this, of course, and break it down for you in subsequent episodes. Until then, keep listening, keep playing too, but beware of the loot boxes. This episode was produced by Vinay Joshi, sound designed by Indranil Bhattacharjee. The Morning Brief drops every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, don't miss Corner Office Conversation, our brand new show where we talk to the most interesting business leaders from India and the world, every alternate Monday on your favorite listening platform. Have a good rest of the week.